Hey everyone, it's BrowncoatNerd. Got another review for you on a surplus pistol here. Finally, we got ourselves a wheel gun. I've never really had a revolver in my collection. I was taught to shoot with a Ruger Super Blackhawk and 44 Magnum when I was a small boy. Big surprise I didn't get into shooting right away. I just assumed shooting meant bloody knuckles. So trigger guard on those things was horrible if you know anything about them. And then once I started collecting, I just ended up with a Ruger Single 6 revolver in my collection. That's just a little 22 caliber pistol, and it was built really nice, good quality. It was accurate and everything, but just 22 was just kind of boring to me, and it wasn't surplus. It just really didn't fit into my collection. So I actually ended up, I didn't trade that off. I sold that to help get funds for one of my Arisaka rifles several years ago. But I've been kind of wanting to add a revolver to the collection, and Classic Firearms, I think Aim Surplus got some of these too, but they got in quite a few Smith & Wesson Model 10s. Now this one came from Classic Firearms. It is not a hand select. As you can see, it is pretty well worn. They said that these have an NRA rating of good. Mechanically, this gun seems to be in great shape. The bore's in great shape. The rifling's in really good shape. It's just ugly. And these grips are really terrible too. And if you watch the video that they put out on these, that's one of the things that they mention is that the grips, you know, they let you know ahead of time that the grips are going to be in bad shape. And in the video, he shows several that, you know, the police officers customized. It just looks like they really just butchered them up. One of them even had a Taurus grip on one side and then the original Smith & Wesson grip on the other. And I was kind of really hoping I didn't get one of those because I like to keep mine, you know, my surplus as original as possible. It has a story, even though I may not know exactly what it is. So I was really hoping I didn't get one of those grips because I would be, you know, I'd felt kind of obligated to stick with them. I was wondering too if that's supposed to say max. I'd just be some notches. Maybe got so worn they're going to try to add some checkering there themselves. But these ones are in pretty bad shape, the grips. As you can see, there's nothing really special or unique about them. It's got a little chunk of wood missing out of it. So what I did, I'll do this real quick off screen here. I just wanted to show you guys the original grips that came on the gun. So if you're thinking about ordering one of these, you can kind of know what to expect. I didn't order this particular one right away from them. It was, you know, they had them for a little while, but I've had this for quite some time. And they still have these in stock. When they first got them, they had the 10.6 as well as the 10.8. Sorry guys, I'm kind of nursing a cold here, so I'm going to sniffle. The 10.6s, it looks like, sold out fairly quick because when I placed my order, this was my only option, which I wasn't really picky. And in their description too, they kind of hint at if you get the 10.8, you're probably going to get one in slightly better shape because, you know, it hasn't been used as long. So, and I believe they're the same price, which I believe was $300 or very close to that. So what I did, gee, excuse me, is I got on eBay and I ordered some less used grips. I think I paid like it was like 25 to 32 bucks, maybe $35 for these grips. And they're used grips, came off a American police turn-in was the story behind them. So they don't look brand new. Because I thought putting brand new grips on here is just going to look goofy. Another option I was thinking about, they do make bigger grips. Because these things, okay, I've got small hands, guys. But this still feels small in my hands, especially the original grips. I did not realize how worn these original grips were. You can tell these are a lot thicker. I thought maybe, actually they offered these in different thickness. But if you look how deep that, you know, carving is there on the side, these are just either heavily worn or perhaps the officer did sand them down some if they had small hands to make it more comfortable for them. So these, I believe, are the original, you know, what would have been the exact same grips that came on here. These do come down a little bit shorter than the grips I took off. You can see that line there where the beat up grips came up just a little bit more on it. But adding that extra thickness I mean, it makes it a lot better. I still kind of wanted to get one of those bigger grips. It comes down further. I think it fills it out here a little more. They just look so much more comfortable. Actually, a friend of mine that ordered one of these a few days before I did, he got the bigger grips, actually just today, right before I started filming this video. And he said it looks, it feels much more comfortable. And just looking at it, it looks much more comfortable. So you do have that option too. I just wanted to try to leave it as original as possible. Plus, that's kind of the weird quirkiness of this particular handgun, is that old style grip. And for some reason, I've been watching a whole bunch of reruns of the Barney Miller show, and you'll see these kind of style grips sticking out of guys' holsters there. And if you're not familiar with that show, go check it out. It's usually playing on Antenna TV. But so, I wanted to keep that uniqueness. Plus, if this isn't a very comfortable revolver to shoot, well, that's just another excuse to get another revolver. So, all right. So this is This is the Smith & Wesson Model 10-8. This is probably the most common revolver, probably not just in the U.S., but very possibly the world. These particular ones, Classic was saying that they were police turn-ins. On the website, it simply says police turn-ins from overseas. That could be anybody. On the video they put out, they usually put out unboxing videos. Clint does mention that these are from Europe specifically. Now, I did see a bunch of these come in. I think AIM Surplus had them. But these were coming in quite a bit from France. So I know France used these a whole bunch. So there's a very good chance this is from France. But the problem is everybody used these. I mean, like literally every country has probably used this gun. At some point in time. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what country had it. I don't know why Classic wouldn't say, or if they just simply don't really know themselves. Because I feel like if we know the country it came from, that's going to add value. It's going to, make it a little more interesting. Even if it's not, necessarily a cool country, which kind of has me wondering, is this a country that they're concerned that people won't want to buy it if they find out what's from? I don't know. That's purely speculation on my part. I also read somewhere, I don't know if this one's simply commenting or if this was actually a source, reputable source, but that Australia, some of their police departments were finally turning in their Smith & Wesson Model 10s and upgrading. So there's also kind of some questionable, were these from Australia? So, I don't know. Like I said on the website, it just says from overseas. In the unboxing video, Clint specifically does say Europe. Maybe that was just him not, really thinking and just saying that because, like I said, a bunch of these were coming in from France. But like I said, these have been used in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, everywhere has used these models. Also, pretty much if you're watching a television movie, almost always when they pull out a revolver, I feel like more often than not, it's going to be a Smith & Wesson Model 10 of some variation. Now, the 10 is built on the K-frame. You will find these in the square butt. This is the square butt as well as the round butt. And the round butt's kind of a little more curved. I feel like those are going to be a little more common on the snub nose, the 2-inch barrel versions. Just makes it probably a little more concealable, possibly more comfortable to shoot, because this is kind of a small frame or a small grip. Like I said, I've got small hands, guys, and of course my pinky is crooked. So it gets on there, but just barely. If you have big hands, you are going to hate this grip. I mean, and where the bore axis is, like my auto pistols, I feel like the barrel should be pointing straight. When I took this out shooting, I did shoot 100 rounds through it. I kept shooting, was it high, low? Let me look. I kept shooting high. And no matter how far or how close the target was, I kept shooting high. It was weird. So a lot of adjustment for me on the grip and the sights, which actually aren't as bad as I originally thought. They're not bad. They're just kind of hard to pick up. I forget now that I have the both hands free. I can show you guys. She is empty. And as you can see, she is very worn, very dirty. Also, if you do have one of these and you're not sure exactly what model it is, it will say right in here, you can see mod 10.8. And we got some more numbers. But this gun, it's very worn, but mechanically everything seems to be very functional, very tight. The trigger is old. Oh no, I never did the trigger pull test. Sorry guys. It's super freaking light. I mean, it is astonishing light, that single action. I mean, it's just, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. I feel like this gun was probably taken out twice a year, shot, and then put up and never cleaned. You know, I've cleaned this several times. I've only taken it out shooting once, but there's still, I feel like, a fair amount of gunk and crud I have yet to really get out of here. I haven't even taken the side plate off. Isn't that lame? I did take the cylinder out, which I believe was removing this screw here. And then I'm new to revolvers. I believe this is the crane, or is that the yoke? It's one of the two. This just slides out, and then you can slide the cylinder out and get in there and clean it up very well. I will eventually take that side plate off. One thing I noticed the other day, right here, there's some nicks. So I don't know if someone tried to pry that side plate off. If you're new to these, I heavily recommend you watch someone else's videos on the disassembly. You do not want to pry the side plate off. Basically, you want to tap it with a mallet or something, kind of help jar it loose. So I haven't dug in there. My friend that I said had bought one of these a few days before I placed my order. He actually received it a day before I got mine. He took his side plate off, and it was pretty darn filthy. He also did pay hand select for his. His still had a considerable amount of wear on it. I think he's actually kind of maybe a little pissed off until I sent him the pictures of my non-hand select. And I think then you could be like, okay, yeah, yours definitely does have more wear on it. So that made him a little happy. He got the bigger grips too. I think I already said that. I'm sorry guys, this congestion sucks. So this is built on the K-frame. The Smith & Wesson Model 10 has been around for quite a while. It's had many names. My tripod is slowly slipping. It was also known as the Hand Ejector, the Model 1899. This is actually the first military and police, or M&P. And then during the World War I era, I almost said World War II. I mean, it was used in World War II. It was the Victory model, which was just kind of the Parkerized, had a lanyard loop. Backtrack a little bit, the M&P was the first one chambered in the 38 special cartridge rather than the 38 long Colt. Barrel sizes for the Model 10 will vary anywhere from 2 inches up to 6 inches. Let's see, the Model 10 first came out in 1957. Hold on, I gotta get a drink. And no, I'm not drinking and handling firearms. I'm addicted to Dr. Pepper. So the Model 10, in that name, first came out in 1957. And then with each upgrade, it'd be 10-1, 10-2, so on and so forth. The 10-8, which is what we have here, that first came out in 1977. And the 10-8 saw production until 1987. This particular one is from 1981. And in 1981, the heavy barrel, the gas ring, was moved from the yoke to the cylinder. From my understanding, a lot of these changes were actually done to kind of make production a little bit cheaper. And what was the other thing? The logo. And I've seen a lot of videos. I feel like this logo has hopped from side to side. But in 1981, they moved the logo, which was originally over here, and I believe a little bit bigger, over to this side and made it a little bit smaller, which is kind of unfortunate. Because I think Smith & Wesson has one of the cooler logos. Sorry, I'm going to get my lamp here a little more in the camera. Has one of the, more cool looking logos that are out there. So I kind of wish it was over here. The reason they did it, though, is they wanted to free up this space because you had the option for engravings, either, to customize it or for police and military departments. A lot of times you'll see these with engravings for the police department. A lot of these Model 10s will come in with like a little sticker from the police department, which is kind of lame, but whatever, I guess cost cutting. This particular one does have, I'm assuming that's a rack number. It says JP 3637. And also, kind of the cool thing, you can see the import mark on there. Now, like I said, these guns were, built in the U.S. and then actually exported to Europe or somewhere as a police pistol. And when they retired them, they were imported back into the U.S. So it's kind of cool seeing, an American-made Smith & Wesson with an import mark. I think that's kind of cool. When this gun showed up to my FFL, they're kind of looking at me like, why did you buy this beat-up old Smith & Wesson? Also, another thing, if you guys are looking for a Smith & Wesson, go to your local gun shop. They're going to have some used Model 10s. The one I went to, which, quick shout out, Quick's Guns in Kansas City, Kansas, they had 3 different Model 10s there, all in much nicer shape than this. Also, cool thing about Quick's Guns is, this was my 5th FFL, or transfer, through them since they started doing this. So this one I actually got for free. Well, not the gun for free, but the transfer for free, which is pretty awesome. Also, just a heads up, I believe the pricing has changed, so just ignore that. I think it might be $30 or $25 for used and new. But those guys, they're very cool. I always enjoy talking to them. They seem very knowledgeable, and they also make some killer barbecue sauce. It is not your traditional Kansas City style barbecue sauce, but let me tell you, it's fire, and I'm getting low. Time to get another transfer. While I was there, I'll go ahead and mention this. I know I'm getting a little off topic. They actually had a used holster. This was actually marked for a Ruger Security, I believe. But while I was in there, I was kind of looking around and walked over with this holster and tried it out. Sure enough, it fits in there pretty good. I think it's got some good sweat marks on here. It was made in Miami, Oklahoma, or Miami, Oklahoma, however you prefer to pronounce it. So it's not the proper holster. It wasn't the holster that came with this gun. I'm not going to get that holster, whatever it was. So, I feel like that's just kind of a good match. It was pretty cheap. And me, I like to have, at least a close to accurate holster for my firearm, which I'll mention real quick. Nicoletta's holster that I had for my Beretta 81. Well, I probably shouldn't have bought it. Not that it's a bad holster, but I actually found an authentic, original, proper police holster for my Beretta 81. And it is currently on its way from Italy, and I'm very happy. It's new. I would have preferred to buy a used one. But still excited. I'll do a video once I get that. So, getting back to the topic here. This is the 10.8. The logo was moved from this side over here in 1981. Also, I noticed, I didn't grab the book. There's a book. It's the Smith & Wesson. I can't even think of the title. It's the 4th edition, whatever this book is. The 4th edition came out in 2017. I wrote that down. Didn't write down the title because I planned on having the book out here. But if you're interested in these, definitely go out there. If you look up books on Smith & Wessons, it's going to be... Give me a second, guys. Please stand by. All right, we're experiencing minor technical difficulties, but we are back on air. This guy, the standard catalog, 4th edition. I think this is the newest edition. This one came out in 2017. I haven't even really began to dive into this too much, but there's tons of information on this. Good book. So, this source is coming from that book. It says that in 1982, that they quit using the pinned barrel. Now, this one is not a pinned barrel, but as you can, it's not pinned. This one came out in 1981. So maybe they're still pinning the barrels on the standard barrel. This is a heavy barrel. They made them in both the standard as well as the heavy barrel. Obviously, your standard barrel is going to be a lot lighter. This one's going to be a little more heavy duty. Also, if you're recoil sensitive, it's going to kind of help soak up that recoil since it's, got more weight, especially out towards the end of the gun. And this gun doesn't really have very much recoil at all. It's the first time I've ever shot 38 Smith & Wesson. It's a pretty easy shooter. So, they quit using the pin barrel, at least altogether, in 1982. And some people will argue that the pin barrel is more accurate. Some say it's just purely a cosmetic thing because everything up here gets lined up better. I don't know how much of that holds any truth. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see someone trying to ask for a little bit more of a premium if they have a model that has a pin barrel. Also, the round butt models, those go for a little bit of a premium. 2-inch barrels typically demand a premium. Obviously, the nickel finish, those always, require a premium. The book also had some pricings for these, which I thought was interesting. Now, the pricing didn't break down as to which model of tin or series, whatever you want to call it. But the pricing they had in the book, keep in mind this came out in 2017, was for one in good condition, which is what this is supposed to be, was for $250. That wasn't that long ago, 2-3 years ago. Is this good condition? I would call this fair, but to be honest, if you look at the NRA grading, it typically when you see one that's in like good shape, or what you would call good shape, you or I would call good shape, it's actually a step above that in the NRA grading system as far as the amount of bluing and all that stuff on there. And like I said, mechanically, this one's really in great shape. For the first couple days, like the first week or two I had this, I kept going back and forth as to whether or not I was going to re-blue this. I thought about even just cold bluing it, which I know cold bluing isn't going to last very long, which I was fine with. So I was like, okay, well, it'll wear away, get some holster wear kind of quick, and give it that, nice patina that I like, but just not so patinaed. And I think I finally have decided against that. Boy, I don't think it's rust color. That's really showing up in the camera here. I think I'm just going to keep it as is. She is ugly. She's been around, but she knows what she's doing, right? So, and I haven't really cleaned the outside of this too much. I've taken a slightly oiled cloth and cleaned over it. I've been mostly just cleaning out the barrel and the cylinder. So it might, get a little more life to it. The grips definitely make it look a lot better than these old beat up things. So yeah, pin barrel. According to that book I just showed you guys, there were also a couple special variations that Smith & Wesson put out. So I was looking through there, specifically for special variations of the Model 10. And so the New York State Department of Motor Transportation, or Motor Vehicles, they had a special 3-inch barrel version with some kind of special engraving on it. The Boston Police had a 4-inch heavy barrel special version. Washington, D.C. Metro Police got a 125th anniversary 4-inch heavy barrel version. And all of those were specifically 10/8, just so you know. But like I said, guys, this gun has been used on every continent. I looked on Wikipedia for the wars that this gun has been in. And it's been in every war, even the Iraqi war. I know in Vietnam this was a very popular pistol for pilots to use. It's been around. It definitely has a lot of history to it. Let's see. I already told you about my shooting experience. That trigger felt great. It is very low recoil. I just got to get used. I think it's a combination maybe of these sights. Because I feel like that front post is super tall. And so I kind of want to just ignore it and try to compensate. And, I was really paying attention to that. And then just this grip. My wrist is all... It's weird. It's going to take some getting used to. But like I said, instead of getting a grip to kind of fix that or remedy that, that's part of this, particular handgun's unique character. So I'm going to keep this style of grip on there and just get another revolver, I guess. It's my only option. Ammo. So this kind of frustrated me. I wanted to show you guys some of the classic rounds for this, which would be a semi-wad cutter. Now, I'm familiar to some of you guys might not know what that is. But in the freaking Kansas City area, all I could find were lead round nose, full metal jackets, and hollow points. I went to Cabela's, went to Bass Pro, went to several academies. I didn't go by the different gun shops. Hell, Quick's probably had some. But I really wanted to show you guys a semi-wad cutter round. So basically, here's your lead round nose. You get your full metal jackets. And these are kind of semi-wad cutter, actually, the way the nose is done. how it's blunt like that. And then, of course, hollow points. One thing I will say, I watched a few ammo reviews on 38 special ammo. And from what I've seen, a lot of these hollow points were actually designed to be used in a 357 Magnum, which, in case you didn't know, a 357 Magnum is just a 38 special with a longer case, hotter load. The 357 Magnum will not chamber in a 38 special. If for some reason you get yours to chamber in a 38 special, don't shoot it. Don't be that guy. They do make 38 special plus P, which the 10-8 is not rated for. I meant to look up when they started rating them for that, and I completely forgot. Sorry, guys. So unless, I mean, they'll say it on the barrel. So unless yours is specifically rated for 38 special plus P, you really shouldn't. Now, I've read and watched a lot of videos of guys saying, oh, I've shot plus P in my 38 special all the time, no issues. I have no doubt that you had no issues. It's just like, why push it, though? It's just an excuse to get another revolver. Why not? So just keep that, a little cautionary tale that, so they did some gel tests. Some of these hollow points did not expand, and they were thinking that's because it's not getting up to the velocities, the speed of a 357 Magnum. Some of them they tested did. So if you really want to go with a hollow point, kind of do your research. If I were to use this as a self-defense gun or a carry gun, I would probably go with a semi-wad cutter, or hell, even a full wad cutter. It's kind of the old school hollow points, if you will. This was before they were making hollow points. And the idea of a wad cutter, now I couldn't find a full wad cutter locally, but I do have a 32 Smith & Wesson long wad cutter. And that's what this is right here. And it looks like a spent case. It's not. When you shoot at a paper target with these, it's like a hole punch. So when you shoot at a regular target, it's a hole, but with like jagged edges. That hole is, it's punched through the paper. It's kind of cool. It's great for target shooting. And my understanding is that's what these were originally designed for. But when you're shooting flesh, it kind of does the same thing. It's going to punch a perfect hole. It's not just going to, push in, penetrate, and pierce. It's going to give a little more chopping effect. So a lot of times what you'll see with these 38 specials is what they call a semi-wad cutter. And like I said, this kind of has the profile of that. How you see that nose is flat. Typically the nose will be lead, exposed lead, and then there'll be jacketing around the base of the bullet. And I would probably use something like that to carry if I were to use this as a defense gun. Or even the full wad cutter rounds like this here. At range, at far distances, they're not going to have the most accuracy. But if it's a defensive pistol, odds are it's going to be close combat. And it won't have as much of a punch. They're typically in lighter loads. But once again, you're going to be close up. It's going to be that nice jagged hole. But that's just my personal opinion on that. So like I said, this was from Classic Firearms, $200. This was non-hand select. I wasn't expecting it to quite be as worn as it was. I knew the grips were going to be in bad shape, and I was already looking around on eBay for, used grips. They're very cheap. These are not cheap if you want them brand new. Like these same grips I was seeing for like 60 or 80 bucks brand new, and they're not great grips. And these, they don't fit this particular one perfectly. I could sand it a little bit, but I'm not that concerned about it. And if anyone says anything about, hey, you just shut your serial number on Facebook and YouTube or catalog, man, I buy all my guns legally. I got nothing to be concerned about. If they're really doing that, do I think it's a crappy move? Yeah, but, it doesn't cause me any direct concern. So if you guys are looking for, for me, I just really wanted to add a wheel gun to the collection, and this is what it became. They do have these in a nickel finish. Now I've seen these in I'm not sure technically if it's nickel or chrome, but I've seen them advertise these as Model 10s in that finish. Also, I've seen them as the model, I think 300 something. It's a Model 10, but just with that nickel or chrome finish. And I believe Aim Surplus actually had several, some with a spurred hammer and some with a bobbed hammer. And those look pretty slick too, and I think those were around $350 or $380, somewhere in there. So like when I bought this, I was kind of like, oh, should I have gone for that chrome? You know, I don't know. I feel like a beat up chrome or nickel plated gun isn't going to have this kind of, I'm going to say, beauty of a worn blued gun. You know, it's going to be all shiny with scratches and nicks all over it, whereas this is just blued. It's got finish wear. You know, it doesn't look that, I know there's maybe some little fine nicks down there. But I think just a blued gun looks a hell of a lot better beat up and worn than a nickel or chromed gun would. Also, just real quick, the top here, it's really hard to tell on this gun, but if you find one that has all of its bluing on there, the top strap up here, and I believe they only did this on the heavy barrels, I might be wrong on that, but this was actually done in kind of a matte bluing finish. And I believe the idea was to cut down on glare. Also, this is the newer front sight post. They had kind of more of a half moon, and then that half moon kind of started to get a step, and then it got fully stepped like that. Even though I like to keep them original, every once in a while I do little things to them. I'm really tempted to put like maybe some white paint on there, because I really do lose the sight easily on a black silhouette target. Why does no one make a white silhouette target? Okay, like all of our sights are black, right? It just makes sense to me. I guess I'm just getting old and my vision's getting crappy. I don't know. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want a cool wheel gun to pick up, you've got these. They have the unique special history of them being imported back into the US. Just really wish I knew what country they came from. But it's a fun shooter. Also, I hate myself for making my Stranger Things video when I did, because I could have included this in the video. No, it's not the sheriff's gun. I believe it's season 1. At some point, Nancy gets a revolver. I remember kind of thinking about that, and I looked it up real quick, and sure enough, it was a Model 10. I'm not sure what variation. I vaguely remember her like out in the woods with that one kid's older brother, whatever his name is, like target practicing the revolver. I believe it's like the pencil barrel version. But yeah, technically this could have been in my Guns of Stranger Things video. Damn it. Oh well. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, as always, please like and subscribe. Yeah, and I hope you guys did like it. If not, give me a thumbs down. All right, have a good one. Stay shiny.